The character lies on the bed, absorbed in his thoughts. He reflects on how tired of this endless circle. Tormenting people. Murders. On his body you can see many tattoos that give him an ominous appearance. He looks to the side, exhaling. How do you feel yourself by reaching your 20th birthday? His interlocutor, with a gloomy expression on his face, says, and then again, torture and killing people. The eyes of the interlocutor are filled with rage when he pronounces these words. He answers with a cold expression, tired of all this. Hearing this phrase, the interlocutor smiles, but this smile looks strange. He continues to say, you are lucky. The character in a hat with a Christmas cake and lights on it celebrates his birthday. He says with a smile, it's all strange. The interlocutor continues the conversation, expressing disappointment. He asks, why do we take time for so long? Other demons are also worried about it. The character, who has become more tense, replies, probably this is just boredom. With a grin, he adds, I am a person. This is why I am bored. He silently looks at his cake, absorbed in memories. In the next frame, he thoughtfully says, maybe there is something else that you can do. His interlocutor calmly looks at him. What would you do? The character continues, I feel that I did everything like a demon. What's next? He gets out of bed, looks tired, but ready for action. You can try something new, the interlocutor says, pointing to the door. The character looks at him seriously, not understanding what the interlocutor has in mind. I don't think it will be fun, he says. He calmly sits down in the train car. His expression is devoid of all joy. He is already on the way to a new place. But on the way he thought thoughtfully. Oh, but perhaps this will be a chance to change something. At the time of arrival in a new city, he is already ready to take his first step into a new life. The character in the mask sits on the train. He looks at others with light irritation, until one of the passengers asks him if he wants to join. His interlocutor points to free place, offering to sit next to him. However, the hero is silent, carefully watching what is happening around. I am 290 years, says one of the passengers. The old man, with pride, clearly waiting for the reaction. Another passenger adds, you probably do not see, but soon something will happen. The words of this old man remind the hero of something anxious when a strange phenomenon suddenly begins. A mystical shadow appears around. Are you a shaman? One of the passengers asks fearfully, looking at the character with suspicion. At this moment, the passenger in the cap begins to shout. This is unfair. Why should I suffer like that? He continues in a panic. Why is the world so unfair to me? And decides to explode with anger. He pulls the lever on his backpack, making a sharp sound, and something strange happens, as if he turned on a dangerous device. His hands begin to shake and he said in despair, why is this happening to me? Suddenly, a bright glow bursts out of his device, which covers him and others. The hero is trying to restrain his emotions until chaos begins around. Passengers in a panic run, trying to escape. Direct! The character in the backpack screams, releasing toxic gas which begins to spread through the car. Ha ha ha! He laughs, seeing how others begin to fall under the influence of gas. All die, he screams, enjoying the destruction that he causes. At this moment, others run to the exit, trying to avoid a deadly threat. In another place, a girl with a telephone in her hands notices what is happening, not knowing what to do. She looks anxiously at the screen of her device and tries to understand what is happening. Hurry up and run! She hears a warning. The girl is trying to get out of the car, but suddenly faces someone in a gas mask. He is silent, but the girl already understands what is happening, and an expression of fear appears on her face. The guy in the gas mask grabs the girl by the hand, raising suspicion. He asks, what are you? Do not run away. He continues, threatening, are you ignoring me? His voice becomes more menacing. Or do you want to die? The girl, not paying attention to threats, quickly checks the time on her phone, expressing calm. The character in the gas mask is angry and shouts, do you understand what is happening? A strange radiance breaks out of his backpack, and the girl looks at what is happening with fear. She notices how the gas begins to fill the space around it, but retains composure. Inhaling gas, the girl takes a deep breath, without losing her self-control, despite what was happening. She stands, observing the increase in the concentration of gas in the air, but her facial expression remains calm. She decides to remain motionless, realizing that it is not to panic. Soon she feels how the gas begins to act, and decides that it is time to do something. At this time, another character, standing in a neighboring car, also faces this threat. A group of passengers is surprised to watch how the girl and the guy in the gas stand in the middle of the car. Suddenly, a guy in a gas mask uses a device that throws even more toxic gas, which makes others panic. The girl and the guy in the gas mask are eyes, while everyone else runs in different directions, trying to get out of the car. The character in the gas mask again glances at the girl, expressing doubt. He makes a strange sound, as if something was happening with his device, when the guy suddenly reacts from behind. The girl decides not to wait and takes a step forward, noting that the guy is starting to act. At this time, the guy in the gas mask becomes aggressive, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" Rushing sharply to his threats, one of the characters grabs his shoulder, trying to stop him. But the guy in the gas mask begins to resist. The shadow of the character appears against the background when he says, "I already saved these people." His voice sounds anxious. People are sitting on the train, scared, but their faces remain calm. They begin to notice the strange atmosphere that arose after the incident. "But there is still no flight," he remarks, standing in the doorway. His gaze is hidden in the dark, creating an atmosphere of tension. "You should not listen to this bitch of a son, Soken," he says, feeling disappointment and discontent in his life. He turns to the girl. "In any case, tell me." The girl looks at him and answers, holding back his emotions. What is it, what to be saved? Gas is still filling the space. He, not paying attention to her question, answers, showing his cruelty. "I did not want you to save me." He expresses bewilderment, although he continues. "What?" "I said that I didn't want you to save me," he says, clutching her face tightly. The girl, feeling emotional stress, replies, "I plan to finish my life here." She stands in front of him, and with this her world is turning over. But her words sound with determination. He repeats his words, trying to understand her intentions. "You decided so, and now you saved me." "Why did you save me?" he asks, experiencing a sense of loss and disappointment. He looks at her again, realizing that she feels, "Why, damn it?" In the next frame, we see it standing on the bridge. She looks around, reflecting on her past. "A year ago, I sold my luck to the devil," she says, emitting determination. The character with a light hint continues, "This is not a metaphor. I really made a deal with an unknown devil." Her words become more and more mysterious. "What does this mean, you ask?" "This means that I got into a variety of fraudulent schemes and crimes," she finishes, realizing the consequences of her actions. We see the dark silhouette of the character who says, "Both are devoted and decisive." In the next frame, the character falls into the void, absorbed in despair. His face is distorted from fear and pain. It also means the loss of all social ties. All attempts in the economic sphere end in failure. His thoughts absorb him. The girl sitting nearby says, "I have just lost one luck in my life." She stands, lost and disappointed. "But it is felt as if my life has gone into an endless abyss, losing balance." At this moment, a dangerous guy appears in a gas mask. His intentions are clear, and the girl realizes, what if? These thoughts fill her head, and she decides that death would be the best way out. He begins to spray gas, and the girl, feeling danger, tries to find a way out. People on the train begin to panic, and screams and noise are heard everywhere. Suddenly, the police appear, trying to calm the situation. They demand from the passengers to cooperate. The police arrived. Everyone should assist. The officer looks at the girl and says, "For your safety." "You threw me the first," says one of the characters, not hiding irritation. He continues, "I in the end saved your life. How can I survive now?" The girl answers with disappointment, "I did not ask you to save me." He is silent, feeling inner pain from her words. The girl holds back his hand, saying, "Let me go." The police intervene again, saying that they are interrogating about the incident. One of the officers asks, "What are you doing here?" The girl is trying to run away, and her gaze is full of anxiety. "Can we already leave?" At this time, the guy with a bitter smile laughs. "They must be grateful that I pulled this gas." A man with an unusual expression on his face asks, "Are you a demon?" His eyes sparkle when he looks at the character, leaving a sense of threat. The character says with confidence, "I saw you before. They were not as angry like you, but..." The girl standing nearby points to him and says, "You there." One of the officers, noticing the character, asks, "Are you not a policeman?" A man with a dumbfounded look answers, "Yes." The character with a mockery asks, "Are you playing with the lives of people like puppeteers?" The dark aura envelops him, and he replies with a cold expression, "Do you realize how miserable their life is?" The girl replies, "Why is this not allowed?" She continues with a gloomy smile, "Those people with whom you made a deal." The girl again begins her threat. "In response, you will suffer from a terrible fate." In this frame, the girl stands, as if under the pressure of her own thoughts and fear. The character, desperate, says, "You will continue and will suffer. So far, no one wants you to live." She answers with determination, "I will not ask you to save me." The man looks at her with indifference. "Do not go on my road, a devilish bastard." He takes a step forward, but a girl appears to protect her, and he instantly stops. The man laughs and says, "That girl, is she okay?" The girl answers with horror, "She probably will not be able to survive." He decides to leave her. "Let her go. She should cope herself." The man feels strange pain but remains indifferent. "What is this?" His gaze is changing. The policeman asks with interest. "Soken?" The character, looking a little puzzled, replies, "Yes." A man with determination adds, "Find out with which devil she made a deal." The girl, standing nearby, irritably says, "You're not interested, aren't you?" "I just want to check." The night city is lit by lights, and the girl stands on the bridge, looking into the darkness. "It has passed exactly a year," she says, holding back emotions. She thinks about her life, feeling her balance. "Will I really fight for survival?" "Damn, I'm really angry," she whispers, trying to gather her thoughts. A figure appears in a gas mask, and he mockingly says, "You have spoiled everything." The girl looks at him reluctantly, realizing that her life may have already been over. "What did I do to earn it?" she thinks. Standing alone, experiencing everything that happens. "You ignored me, right?" The menacing voice sounds from behind. A man in a hood with a furious expression on his face says, "Do you think it is funny?" He is angry. "Could you just leave me alone?" The girl answers with irritation. "What are you doing here? Are you going to follow me?" he says, continuing to threaten. He, grabbing her, threatens, "Do you even understand who threw you into this hell?" He turns and says, "Terribly noisy here. Let's die faster." At that moment, he pushes her from the bridge with force. The girl falls into the water, but her face does not express fear, but only despair. The man's gaze is cold, and he laughs, watching her fall from the bridge. The man laughs loudly and gloatingly. His laughter sounds like an ominous one, filled with pleasure from what is happening. He continues his laughter, starting from the bridge, falling into the darkness. He flies down, his figure is hiding in the dusk, and a shadow appears. His fall stops sharply, as if someone had intervened. He cannot believe that he was saved. He looks at the water surface with horror, thinking, "Your contract!" The sound of the fall of water stoons, his face expresses confusion and anxiety. At this time, the girl continues to think, I can't do it anymore." The man stands next to her, supporting her while she heads to the shore. He asks, "Why are you doing all this?" "Conclude a contract with me," his words sound like from the last strength. The girl, who seemed indifferent, now looks back at him, trying to understand who this person is. She decides to think, who is this person who wants to offer a new contract? He suddenly tells her, "Hey, you will not die." His words sound with a small degree of care until he turns away. The girl returns home in a dark car, and her thoughts are full of anxiety. They come to a chic mansion around which there are thick trees. A man lying on the bed looks tired and painful. His face reflects fatigue. In the bathroom, in the shower, he tries to recover. His body has not yet recovered. It stands under the streams of water. His muscles are tense, and his breath is shot down. The man suddenly feels a strange pain. His gaze becomes gloomy. He finds himself in a room with a girl, not knowing how to react to the situation. The hero lies on the bed. His gaze is tired and displeased. He is clearly not happy about what is happening. On this frame, they show how he throws a small pot of plant, which begins to mysteriously glow. He holds the plant in his hands, thinking, "This is so because I saved this person." He gets up again, thinking about what happened. "I really saved two of you." Another character, obviously irritated, shouts, "Please, take your things from the room." The hero, waving and uncomfortable with his hands, replies, "But the room will be automatically removed when I leave." He continues with a mockery, "Are you joking? Do you think this is some kind of magical world?" He stands in the bathroom, dressed only in a towel, with a serious expression on his face. "All I need is just a little space." He conveys the girl. Her face expresses doubt when she stands in front of him, not understanding what is happening. "How is this related to the contract?" she asks in surprise, trying to realize the entire chaos. His face becomes more decisive. "I saved two people, and this is all that matters." She turns away, still experiencing what happened. What is happening here at all? She looks bewildered and slightly disappointed, realizing that she had lost control. In a house, a complete mess, a girl in pajamas is perplexed. Where am I? She sees a man in a strange suit appear in front of her and asks what is happening. The man reassures her, "Do not worry. Everything will be in order." "Have you really got your quest for successful devils?" the girl asks, looking at him in amazement. He replies with a smile, "No, I'm just the one who is engaged in such things." He shows with a slight laughter to her companions, who all gathered together, waiting for something. A man with easy dissatisfaction continues, I just investigated and investigated all this. All I need to do is just to put it in order. A man in bright clothes speaks with a malicious smile. I will take it back. So, do you want to sign this contract again? The girl replies, did you say something? He answers with irritation. This damn contract is again? What a terrible demon are you? He continues with a grin. A demon who eats disappointments. She asks in bewilderment, what do you mean? The next frame shows a mysterious plant growing from the earth. Just pass on your feelings of disappointment to this plant, as through Bluetooth. He with a grin explains, you know, you are lucky. I usually do not do things like contracts because they are bored, but you are a slightly strange case. He says with confidence, you were able to do it in one day. The girl, dissatisfied, says, where did she go? A man with a frowning face replies, she did not listen and left. The girl, sitting on the grass, thinks that nothing will come of it, and at some point ends up on Earth. He grabs her hand and pulls, and she asks, how can you step on someone with such weeds? A man with a mockery replies, this is a weed, not a crop. The girl, trying to get out, irritably says, this is a plant that I have grown, pouring it with blood and then, you are so cruel. He answers with a serious look, without changing his facial expressions. The plant begins to bloom, making strange sounds. Pop! The sound is heard when another flower blooms. An image of a shopping center appears on the screen. The boy enthusiastically says, try to test and apply for participation in the events. The girl is surprised to notice unusual things and asks, oh, what is it? The hero looks at the phone with interest and says, this is a strange concept, but since it's free, I will apply. He throws a look at the contract, not quite understanding what is happening. The guy next to him smiles and says, thank you, please take it. The man in response speaks with a dissatisfied expression. Wow, he signed more contracts than I thought. Everyone loves perfume. The number of people is shown on the screen, and the hero asks the question, 17 people? In another frame, a destroyed 5-story building appears with the news header. The building collapsed at the University Festival in Seoul. Firefighters work at the scene, trying to deal with the consequences of the disaster. The relevant authorities are investigating the exact causes of the incident on the spot, the news reported. The fireman finds a man who was under the rubble and helps him get out. Traces of damage are visible on the victim's hand, and the fireman asks, have you been injured? He tries to help, pulling out the victim and asks, nothing hurts? The following message appears on the screen. The one who was able to get out of the rubble was able to view information about the incident. The hero sighs with relief, but in his eyes an alarm is visible. Are you all right? He asks with fear. How many people died? The fireman answers with sadness. News. How many people died? Another fireman checks the information on his phone and answers, 17 people. The hero quietly says, these are unsuccessful people. He stands in the distance with an extinct expression on his face. His thoughts are full of anxiety. He continues to look at what is happening, mentally weighing the situation, and answers with a slight regret. Indeed. 17 people. One of the rescuers examines the destroyed area and publishes a heavy sigh, not knowing how it will cope with this. The man laughs. His face is distorted by a malevolent grin. Ha ha ha! Always something goes wrong. He continues with a grin. All 17 people who were in the building eventually died. In the room on the screen there is a news about the disaster. The man adds, well, the results are the same as usual. He thinks, why couldn't I just take the luck of those dead people there? He decides, perhaps, this is not so important. The man sits and thinks about his contract, saying, they certainly did not use it. He lies on the couch, still thinking. I had to use a lot of effort to get out of this without serious injuries. 1 year ago, he continues in thought, trying to understand why everything went wrong. He realizes that he could have concluded a contract a year ago and suddenly notices something. Could it be due to the contract? He quickly dials on the phone. Can the contract still be valid? A light concern appears in his eyes when he gains the text. Is all this still possible? He continues to write with a smile, saying, I'm quite successful. He sends the message. Okay, I'll try to see it. He continues to smile, thinking that it could be too late. At this time, a picture appears on the screen how smoke rises in the air, signaling the incident. In the room, the girl works calmly, but everything around seems tense. In the store, people begin to get nervous when the next events happen, and one person screams from stress. The hero goes outside and experiences another concern. He exclaims, another situation like this. Suddenly, an empty street appears in front of him. His thoughts are captured by what is happening. The girl sits on the bench thinking and says, I definitely lucky. In her eyes, disappointment and fatigue are red. She cannot get rid of her thoughts. Suddenly, something rustles, and she notices how her bag falls. A man with a dissatisfied expression on his face is approaching. In response, she says, "What?" The man asks with interest, "How much time will I still have to live like that?" He continues in surprise, "How long will this damned case last until I stay without money?" The girl in despair looks into the distance. Will this really not stop? The man looks at her with a cheerful expression on her face, and she, in turn, loses patience. He, smiling, adds, "How are you? How are you?" The girl in response is silent, not knowing how to respond to his words. The man continues, "I had to go in. Meet with the one with whom I entered into a contract a year ago." The girl with discontent replies, "You have been busy with herself all the time." The man who raised the bag notices how she irritably continues, "How is it possible?" She looks at her shoes, mentally trying to figure out what is happening. The man continues, not paying attention to her irritation. "Why can't you just leave?" He adds with a grin, "I must make sure that everyone who enters into a contract with me will be in this misfortune." The girl continues to stand with her head down, unable to cope with emotions anymore. "So why didn't you die?" She tells him with complete despair, unable to restrain tears. "Give me my luck." A man with a smile on his face replies, "What did you say?" He looks at her again. His eyes are full of fun and threat when he adds, "So you want to return it?" A girl with determination in her eyes says, "I will definitely take my luck back." A man with a mysterious smile replies, "Tell this again." He continues with a grin, "Do you really think you can do it? How about returning good luck?" He smiles mockingly. He continues with confidence, showing his hand. "You cannot use what you want to get away from misfortune." Energy and magic begin to accumulate in the air when his strength becomes more and more obvious. He, with a serious expression, says, "I do not see a way out of this situation." The girl stands, absorbed in her thoughts, watching the night city. He continues with rage in his voice, "Do not leave." A man in dark clothes looks bewildered until he notices what is happening. His face, filled with anger, appears in the shade as he approaches the girl. He pulls her with force, leaving no choice. They stand on the basketball court when the ball falls in front of them. The girl decides to take the first step, taking the ball and preparing for the game. The ball bounces and it flies in the air, creating a moment of tension. The man looks at the ball, clearly anticipating what will happen next. At this moment, a person is obviously frustrated and asks, "Hey, give us the ball." One of the players begins to be indignant. "Are you okay, man?" A man on the site looks at the ball, clearly disappointed. Who pierced him? He, with disappointment on his face, continues to look at his rivals, surprised by the result. A man with a knife in his hand says, "Why do you still continue to hope for luck?" He remarks with a smile, "Why couldn't you just ask me like a good friend?" The girl strikes his hand and he receives a blow, making the sound of pain. She says with satisfaction, "It seems that your luck did not help you avoid a blow, right?" He smiles despite the pain and replies, "It seems so." He continues thoughtfully, "Sometimes everything goes wrong." The girl is standing, tired and worried. "I can't get out of here." He reassures her, sourer. With a smile, he continues, "Look what you did." The man begins to laugh. "You tore my ball." He looks at her seriously, saying, "You tore him." He continues, looking at the girl, "You could at least save him as a whole." They laugh with each other, feeling a strange atmosphere. He grunts, "It doesn't matter, no matter how hard you try." The man looks at her with interest, asking, "How can you kill someone like this?" He is with a serious expression on his face, addressing the girl. "You must understand that my contracts are significantly different from yours." The man continues, "Your contracts are not as terrible as mine." He grins, "I probably are 200 years older than you." The girl replies, "You're only 24 years old, right?" A man with a smile on his face reveals the important, "You know me, isn't it?" A man with bright eyes speaks with an ominous grin. "You were expelled from hell because of your love for people." He laughs, "Yes, you're right." He takes out a knife. His face reflects evil determination when he says, "So you still could not get away from me." The girl asks with surprise, "So what did you do?" The man begins to attack sharply. He cuts the air and rushes into battle. His strength is striking. He retreats, dragging another person. "Come on, we leave here." He fury shouts, "I will ask you another question." The girl watches how the situation develops with anxiety in her eyes. A man with rage in his voice says, "Will you sign a contract with me?" He turns to the girl, threatening, "If you do this, I will kill this bastard right here." The girl is silent, but her face expresses uncertainty. A man, screaming desperately, "Come on, do it faster, I actually suffer." A girl with determination in her hands tightly squeezes something, preparing to act. She takes a step back and thinks, "Think about the contract later." A man with a bright look continues, "Have you heard? He holds her hand, not letting him get out. Have you heard me, a successful demon? A man fury looks at the girl. It seems that luck is on my side today. He grabs her neck with determination in her eyes, preparing for the next step. He continues with a grin on his face. I do not think that you like it. Destroying the atmosphere, he straightens out with the enemy, as if there was nothing with him, and then they leave together, leaving destruction behind. A man with determination says, I will ask you this question again. He adds, do you subscribe the contract with me? A sports ground appears on the screen, and something suddenly falls from the sky, hitting loudly. The truck driver, noticing a strange item, shouts, What is it? The driver rushes to the side, which is why he passes the object that flies next to his car. The truck turns in the air, creating a dangerous moment on the road. A man with a carefree expression on his face watches what is happening. He answers with a slight regret. It looks like you have problems. 2 days later, the scene changes, showing another picture. A man in the room, clearly tired, thinks about what happened. He inhales deeply. His face reflects anxiety. He exhales, thinking about the consequences of his actions. A man with a grin says, Do you think this is just an imagination? He continues to speak with a smile on his face. It seems that I can only wait. His face changes. He sighs, thinking about something important. He continues the conversation with the man nearby. What about those berries that can help with symptoms? A man with a smile replies, Yes, Kim Dokun. He continues to tell, looking out the window. Those residences will not be the same as this last. The man answers the question, realizing that something important is before him. He continues the conversation, looking at the interlocutor. I often feel despair until I leave this mansion. The employee completes the conversation, adding, You signed a contract with him, right? The man looks with interest at the phone screen. The speaker. Look at this blog. This is clearly the work of the Demon Master. He continues. Why haven't I heard about him before? Another character doubtfully answers. This is definitely the work of the demon that was expelled from hell. A man with a mockery remarks. You have no friends and you spend a lot of time at home, right? The character thinks that everything that happens does not make sense. Anyway, it does not matter. He leans over, thinking, I need to get rid of this demon to sign a contract with her. Another person is surprised. Hey, have you forgotten? A man with a serious expression on his face says, What was her name? The answer comes after a while. It was a Dokun. A catastrophe occurs when a truck encounters an obstacle, creating a bright explosion. The scene moves to the street where a group of people looks at what is happening, with shocked faces. One of the heroes takes a step back, not knowing what to do. The girl in a panic shouts, Kim Dokun! The man is furious along the road with determination. One of the characters tries to stop him. Do not come closer. He continues to go with obvious irritation and strength. Now, Kim Dokun. A man with a mockery replies, Did you say that you are going to make a contract after that? The girl with anxiety in her voice adds, I think that he just hit her head too much. The man does not lose time and continues the way. It seems that he just scared us. Suddenly the scene changes, showing a demon who comes to life, publishing a terrible roar. A man with a vivid expression on his enemy attacks his enemy with a demonic bend using his strength. He grins, continuing to attack with obvious superiority, even without using good luck. A man with a smile adds, I think that I can defeat you judging by your current state. He strikes a decisive blow, forcefully driving the enemy into the ground. He retreats, calmly exhaling with a slight relief. The man observes the situation until his opponent is recovering from the blow. He quietly remarks, I expected much more from a demon like you. He adds with a mockery in his voice, but you are just a miserable creature. The girl turns uneasily to him, saying, Sorry, Dokun. She in a panic tries to figure out what is happening, touching his hand. He in surprise remarks, What is it? His face distorts the pain when he feels the consequences of his actions. He looks around and does not understand what is happening. What kind of... Suddenly, a new enemy appears, and the forces begin to heat it again. The man notices that something is wrong, and decides to take measures. He speaks with a growing anxiety. It seems that medicines that suppress your strength are no longer acting. The girl, with anxiety in her voice, begins to understand what will happen. If this continues, everyone around will be in a state of collective madness. The man answers with sadness. So, he asks with irritation, Why should I wear handcuffs? A man with a smile looks at what is happening, despite everything that is happening around, feeling victory. The man in surprise thinks, Is his power so great? Anxiety appears on his face when he observes the development of the situation. What is his type of ability? The man freezes, amazed at what he saw. What is this power? Due to fear and here, he begins to see strange visions distorted by his thoughts. He tries to resist, but his hand begins to bleed. With horror, he feels how his own body begins to get out of control. The ability begins to intensify as soon as it loses control, and spreads the shadows that begin to absorb it. Fear covers him, and he feels more helpless, losing all hope. He looks at his wound with a sense of doom. Holding onto his hand, he understands that his condition is deteriorating. Terrible visions become brighter, and he feels how the forces leave him. He falls to the ground again, feeling danger. The man tries to break out of the shadow, but she absorbs him. He publishes a scream, losing all hope. The man is trying to get up, but his forces are weakening. He gets to his feet, but his movements become slowed. He feels how his energy leaves. The girl notices that he loses his strength and quickly approaches him. She looks at him anxiously and tries to help. The girl in a panic shouts, "Do not die!" The man hardly raises his head, trying to not fall with all his might. But everything around is getting dark. We see how the main character, trying to figure out the situation, feels the presence of demons that he cannot control. The shadow covering him makes him worry. He tries to focus on what is happening and tries to make out the voice that he hears in the distance. But his condition only worsens, and he continues to fight the magical shadow that tries to absorb him. A hero named Dokyun steps a few steps, feeling dizziness. He understands that the forces of magic are too great for him, and that he may not cope with this challenge. He wonders what is happening, and why his abilities seem so weak compared to what he had seen before. He feels fear and despair, because he cannot understand what is happening. Dokyun is trying to use his strength to influence magic, but feels how she continues to absorb it. He feels that his strength is drying out, and the shadow is becoming stronger. He feels that his hands begin to tremble, and magic seems to absorb his consciousness. He tries to concentrate, but the sensations become more distorted. Dokyun, in a panic, tries to free herself from the effects of the shadow, but she does not let him go. He understands that his abilities are not as strong as he would like. He again pays attention to the surrounding space, noticing how magic absorbs everything around him. Dokyun feels that his mind and body are beginning to lose control. The hero is trying to find a way out of this situation, but the shadow continues to cover it. He feels how his body weakens and the internal forces disappear. Panic covers it. He realizes that magic at some point can destroy it if he does not find a way to resist. At the very last moment, Dokyun decides to act decisively. He concentrates the remnants of his strength, hoping for luck. Despite the resistance of magic, Dokyun finds the strength to stop it. He feels how its influence weakens. He continues to fight, despite weakness. His determination makes the magic back down a little, but Dokyun feels his strength at the end. Suddenly, the dock is in another place, far from what surrounded him. He understands that perhaps magic has moved him to another dimension. The hero looks around and cannot understand where he was. He sees only strange landscapes and feels that this place is dangerous for him. Dokyun examines the world around, trying to find a solution. He feels that this reality is too strange, and his laws are not clear to him. He decides that you need to go further without stopping, and hopes to find a solution to this mysterious situation. The hero faces an unexpected situation. A strange energy appears around him, which continues to pursue him. He is trying to understand what is happening, but everything around begins to crumble. Dokyun wonders how to get out of this place. His decision is to fight to the end, even if it means a clash with darkness itself. Suddenly, a certain silhouette appears, which offers him the path to salvation. Dokyun decides that he needs to find this path to understand what is behind this new world. The Dokyun lies on the ground. His face and body are covered with traces of bleeding. He realizes that his forces were exhausted, and he can no longer fight the demons. The picture shows how he lies without strength, and his gaze is aimed at a mysterious girl who stands nearby. She turns out to be the very person with whom Dokyun is trying to make contact. Demons seem to go away, but reserve traces of destruction. The hero feels that his life hangs in the balance and he is forced to enter the struggle again. However, the girl, as before, continues to fight the shadow and magical forces that surround her. She obviously does not intend to leave him in trouble. Dokyun is trying to restrain his emotions and get up, realizing that he should move on if he wants to survive. He feels how his forces are slowly recovering, and although he is not yet fully conscious, his determination does not leave him. At this moment, Dokyun realizes that this girl somehow became part of his fate. He cannot afford to remain weak. His condition becomes more unstable, and he again loses consciousness. But before that, he notices how her face approaches him. When the Dokyun again comes to his senses, he feels strange relief. He understands that this meeting with a girl will become a decisive moment in his life. However, his weakness does not give him the opportunity to fully control his strength. He feels how something inside him breaks him again. Dokyun appears to his residual forces, realizing that he needs to survive for something more important. His condition becomes critical. He experiences severe pain, but the girl next to him continues to act decisively, not allowing him to surrender. Having overcome the pain, he tries to rise, but his forces do not allow him to move. He falls to the ground, again losing consciousness. However, his desire to survive does not allow him to surrender. He continues to fight, hoping that he can overcome pain and destruction. Dokyun is trying to find strength to stand up, and again faces the same demons. He understands that his life is again in jeopardy. The girl next to him continues to support him despite her own fatigue. Dokyun decides that he will not give up. He continues to fight, realizing that his fate now depends on whether he can cope with this dark magic. Dokyun realizes that his life will continue until he finds the strength for the final victory over this evil. Every moment its decision becomes more firm. He must complete what he began and defeat the demons that pursue him. The girl asks if Dokyun can complete their contract, and he replies that he must finish this in order to find his way in life. The hero meets danger. His face distorts fear when darkness absorbs him, squeezing him in his arms. He tries to break out, but the dark forces hold him. He realizes that the situation is becoming more and more critical. Desperately trying to free himself, he feels how his strength leaves. His face reflects confusion. The tension intensifies, the dark forces are compressed around, and the hero begins to realize that his capabilities are limited. Forces begin to break out. He decides to apply everything that he has, but his attempts do not give a result. Fear overflows him. He understands that he is not able to control the situation and his chances of success are melting. He again tries to find a way out, but the dark forces turn out to be stronger. His face expresses complete despair. Darkness surrounds him with renewed vigor. Each of his steps becomes more and more difficult, and he loses hope for salvation. The character does not give up, but the situation is heating up to the limit. The dark forces capture him, leaving no opportunity for flight. In a panic, he tries to find a solution, but there is only darkness and threat around. The hero is trying to free himself, but his efforts are in vain. He begins to realize the whole complexity of his position. Despair grows in his actions. He is faced with the fact that he cannot defeat dark forces. Dark forces continue their attack. The hero desperately tries to maintain control, but the situation comes out of his power. He understands that it may be too late to return, and his chances of victory are rapidly decreasing. At the last moment, he tries to find the last way out, but the dark forces are shrinking again, not giving a chance. He comes to the realization that a difficult decision needs to be made. Otherwise, the consequences can be disastrous. His attempts at resistance become weaker, and he is ready to surrender under the pressure of darkness. He decides to act, despite all fear, trying to get control of himself again. The hero makes the last jerk, but the forces of darkness do not retreat. He desperately tries to defend his freedom. Despite all his efforts, the dark forces continue to attack, and he understands that everything is not as simple as it seems. Kim Do-young, shocked, looks at the news release. His face expresses bewilderment. He is trying to realize what is happening around. His thoughts are full of doubt. He covers his face with his hands, still in shock. In his head there are questions. I do not remember anything. What happened? Trying to figure out what happened, Do-young feels that his thoughts have been messed up. He is not sure how he will be able to restore the chain of events that brought him here. His eyes are expanding in surprise when he feels some strange power. Everything around it seems wrong, and he asks the question of how it ended. A new voice distracts his thoughts, forcing him to pay attention. Ah, this is Do-young, this man says, his presence as if Do-young leads out of a state of confusion. Do-young looks at a person, still puzzled, but noticing how he enters the room. His attention is concentrated on a person who seems to be explained by something. Are you okay? We all died, says this man with sincere anxiety. Do-young, not yet recovering from shock, looks at him, trying to understand what was happening. The person continues, welcome. His words sound strangely on the background of a tense atmosphere. The one who says does not seem as shocked as Do-young. Congratulations on the move. It is written on a banner that hangs in the background. This is a strange message that is clearly not suitable for a situation where everyone is literally experiencing a disaster. Surrealism of what is happening only intensifies when Do-young understands that his environment has become something completely alien. He does not understand what is happening, but feels anxiety. Congratulations on the move. This phrase looks empty against the background of the whole situation. Despite the oddity of the situation, Do-young smiles nervously, trying to return at least a little normality. But the atmosphere changes again. A dark essence appears in the background, and the words, "It makes me reach for it." Anxiety is growing. The speaker continues, speaking about how his feelings have become much stronger than that of ordinary people. In this process, your alienation has become much stronger, says his words. The atmosphere is becoming more and more tense. Do-young begins to understand that his perception of reality is gradually distorted. How long will you continue to call me Kim Do-young? The question addressed to him sounds. The speaker requires an answer. Do-young returns to reality. His attention is immediately focused on these words. "What?" he answers, not understanding what is happening. In Do-young's head, awareness flashes, and he stares at the speaker. "Are you sure you want to say this?" he thinks to himself. The atmosphere is changing, and Do-young feels his thoughts get confused even more. He cannot put everything in his head. Everything seems contradictory. The person answers, explaining the situation. "This is not Gyum. This is Kim Do-young," he says, introducing even more confusion. Do-young, still confused, hardly says, Good, trying to cope with the growing strange situation. He sits alone, amazed at the news, unable to believe in what is happening. In his eyes, shock is reflected from what is happening around. His thoughts are confused. He is trying to figure out what happened. He does not remember how he was in this position. He realizes that his memory is fragmentary, and this only enhances his confusion. Uncertainty and anxiety cover it. He is trying to realize what happened, but his condition does not give him rest. It is in complete confusion. At this moment, a familiar face appears. His eyes look directly at him, and his voice sounds like a reminder of what happened earlier. He recognizes a person. His attention immediately attracts his presence. This person seems to have no surprise. They meet with the eyes. And despite all this uncertainty, their exchange of views is filled with many unexpressed emotions. The return look penetrates the very essence of what is happening, creating even more questions than answers. What will happen next remains unclear. Suddenly flowers appear, which are a symbol of something deeper, possibly something that they both began to realize. She begins to reflect on what is behind the events, with every step, every moment, and a new confidence appears in her eyes. Her words sound with clear determination. She expresses her requirements, which now become an important part of what should happen. Obviously, her requirements are not just everyday. They relate to life, stability, and the future that they both can build. He cannot help but pay attention to this, asking a question that is still unanswered. But inside him, a sense of significance of this moment grows. In her voice you can catch a slight smile, and her words make it clear that everything can be much simpler than it seems at first glance. He tries to understand her words, seeing in this a possible way forward. The need for stability and clear landmarks becomes obvious. A new awareness appears instantly that all these words carry a certain severity, and that they change the dynamics of their communication. In her eyes, doubt brings out. She tries to comprehend what was said, and understand what is behind these words and her own choice. He finally pronounces words that, in fact, conclude a contract, and her eyes open in response, ready to perceive this new challenge. Now everything is standing at the stake. Words give a clear landmark for their further steps, and she understands that it is necessary to move forward. He seduces her words, as if it were a decisive moment when he must decide whether he would continue this path, or reject it. In his eyes, you can see obvious anxiety. He loses confidence, watching what is happening, not understanding what awaits him next. He clearly feels not at ease, trying to hide his thoughts, but still cannot completely get rid of anxiety. He is distracted by the environment, but his thought continues to return to what was happening before. He cannot calmly perceive the situation. In this moment, a question arises, which does not give him rest, and he turns to the interlocutor, trying to figure out the situation. He grabs the money, apparently trying to cope with the internal stress. However, inside him is still boiling dissatisfaction with what is happening. Despite all attempts to calm down, he cannot avoid the feeling that something is wrong. He begins to doubt the correctness of his decisions. He stands in the shade, looking around, and feels how hard he has given to his stay here. His thoughts are increasingly deepening into anxiety, a pause in a conversation. He looks thoughtfully out the window, clearly worried that he cannot find a simple answer to the questions that torment him. Suddenly, he asks a question without hiding the excitement. He feels that the situation begins to get out of control, but cannot find the way back. She answers with confidence, and her words sound with a slight accent that everything is not as scary as he thinks. But he continues to doubt. Her gaze becomes more decisive. She explains how to get out of this position, giving him the opportunity to look at what is happening differently. He, in turn, is trying to understand its logic and find a point of contact in their dispute, but the question is still unclear. He is in confusion, continuing to look at her with doubt. He does not quite believe her words, although he tries to find a reasonable explanation. In response to his questions, she gives a new explanation that causes even more doubt. He is more and more lost in his feelings and thoughts. He draws attention to her statements about a possible path forward, but this does not give him confidence in the correctness of their actions. He begins to see the world around him in another light, as if it were just an illusion that should not be trusted. However, she continues to insist on her, showing him that there is a more correct path that can help them get out of the situation. At the time of their dispute, he gives his explanation, trying to give reasonable arguments in order to influence her decisions and make her believe in his vision. Their conversation continues, and despite external efforts, both understand that they are at a crossroads, which can radically change their lives. As a result, despite all the fears and doubts, he decides to believe in their joint actions, hoping that in the end their choice will be true. Do-young, bowing his head, watches something in the distance. His expression is serious, as if he is thinking about the important. He turns, holding back a sigh, as if something bothers him. Everything is quiet in the room, and his gaze seems concerned. He goes to the window, looking thoughtfully outside, as if he tried to figure out something difficult. Do-young takes a step towards the exit. His actions are quick and confident. His face expresses determination, as if he was ready for action. He stands, holds documents in his hands, reflecting on the further course of events. He is clearly concerned about what is happening around. He goes towards another character. From his words, it is clear that he should make a choice that will change the course of events. Do-young looks at the enemy. His gaze is tough. He still cannot completely trust the one who is nearby. He continues the conversation. His tone changes, becoming more decisive, and he is going to find out the truth. A slight tension flashes. He seems confused, not knowing what to do next. He makes an important decision to move forward. Its determination is growing. He accepts a challenge full of readiness to struggle, despite all the uncertainty. He shares plans, realizing that a lot is worth it. With his face, you can read determination, despite internal doubts. Finally, he decides to act. His movements become more confident, and he is ready to fulfill his task. His thoughts, filled with important issues, lead him to an unexpected decision. His face expresses discontent. Do-young feels irritation, but decides to take the last step. He realizes that this is necessary in order to avoid an even greater disaster. He stops, looking in the mirror, realizing that this decision is not so simple. He is now ready to do what is needed. Do-young decides to continue to act, despite all the risks. His gaze becomes hard, and he decides that the time has come for changes. His tension grows. He encounters the enemy, but is still ready to continue. In his eyes, persistence is read. The voltage in the air intensifies when Do-young decides that he should finish what he has begun. He is ready for the final step. He takes a decisive step, faced with what awaits him. Do-young holds himself in his hands, is ready for consequences. Despite all the difficulties, he retains calm and confidence, realizing that this is his path. Do-young is surprised to see himself on TV. He begins to doubt the reality of what is happening, but his friends are trying to calm him down, saying that this is just an accident. Once in an unusual situation, he wonders what happened, and why his consciousness is so strangely perceiving the world around him. One of his acquaintances explains that his memory could be broken, and that all his actions could be the result of the external influences that he encountered. He is trying to figure out how to stop the current situation and return to a normal life, but it is difficult for him to understand what exactly needs to be done. The situation becomes even more confusing when he notices that his environment has changed, and all his actions seem strange to him. He decides to investigate what is happening, but is faced with a difficulty in trying to understand what is happening with his life and why he was in this position. Before doing anything, Do-young decides to seek help, but his companions express doubt about his decision. Once an important choice, he decides to act decisively, despite difficulties and his uncertainty. He understands that he needs to collect all the information in order to understand who is actually behind his suffering. Friends encourage him, helping to cope with doubts and dispel the thoughts that all this is just a product of his imagination. On the way to a solution, he faces obstacles, but decides to move forward, despite the difficulties that have arisen. Despite all efforts, Do-young realizes that he will have much more tests than he expected to understand what was happening. He begins to doubt that his efforts will bring the result, but understands that it is necessary to continue to fight. Without giving up, Do-young finds the strength to look for new ways and opportunities to change his fate. His environment continues to change, and he begins to see everything in a new light, which helps him reveal more secrets. He begins to trust those who are nearby, realizing that the power of his spirit depends on the support of others. Do-young decides that he will fight to the end, despite how much time it will pass until he finds a solution. He is ready to accept the consequences of his actions and move on, despite all the difficulties. In this process, he faces new challenges that require not only strength, but also wisdom from him. His path becomes more and more defined, and he finds determination to go through all the trials that he will face. Suddenly, everything around is getting dark, and invisible forces begin to thicken, absorbing the space. The main character feels on himself the powerful power that he has to encounter. He is trying to understand what is happening, but the turmoil around only intensifies. Only for a moment does he see the silhouette of the one who can explain what is happening. The noise intensifies, as if reality itself fluctuates. He looks around, trying to find the source of these vibrations, but everything is useless. His gaze is fixed in the open space, where strange symbols begin to appear directly in the air, as if they invite him to action. He feels his pockets, trying to find some means or weapon that could help him in this mysterious world. Lightning movements, and then, instant disappearance of the threat. The hero froze, trying to understand whether it was a real fight or illusion. Moving rapidly, he notices how the flows of energy merge, creating new ways to fight. He is preparing for the next attack, feeling his body begin to get used to the energy filling him, and this gives him confidence. Suddenly, a flash of light illuminates everything around, and the hero feels how his forces are rapidly increasing. He uses his new power, bringing down powerful blows to opponents, forcing them to retreat. The whirlwind of energy is replaced by silence, and the hero hears a hoarse voice reminiscent of future trials. This is the voice of a creature that he has to face. A lightning attack on his part forces the hero to sharply deviate to the side. The process of struggle becomes unbearable, and the hero realizes that his actions can affect the outcome of this conflict. He feels how his body begins to carry traces of the battle on himself, but his confidence is growing. He is ready to meet this creature face to face. The next moment, he turns to a source of dark energy to appreciate the power of his opponents and prepare for the next step. The expected clash occurs with terrible power, but it is still alive, and his spirit is not broken. Under his command, everything changes. New forces begin to clarify the picture of the battle. Each moment strengthens his determination, and he is ready to take a decisive step to overcome this test. Inside his brain, ideas begin to spin on how to bring down his strength on the enemy and, possibly, defeat him. And here is the last moment when all the forces are concentrated in one exact blow, and the bright whirlwind of his victory covers the entire space. The woman screams in pain, her face distorts horror. Do-young grabs her hand, trying to help, but her pain does not pass. The woman asks what to do now, as her condition is worsening. Do-young explains that this is not what can be cured in the hospital. Her condition is associated with poisoning. The woman worries, not understanding what is happening, and asks the question how serious this is. Do-young, with a nervous expression, explains that her body is now quickly infected. He says that she is tormented by the magic that she worries, and this is not like an ordinary disease. The woman is horrified by the realization that her life is in danger, screams with fear. Do-young is trying to calm her down, promising to help, but the situation itself remains tense. The woman in tears asks why she was not told that everything is so bad. Do-young reports that her salvation is possible only with his help and with the use of his magic. A woman looks at him with doubt and fear, not confident that he should trust him. But Do-young insists that she has no other choice, since her condition is critical. He takes her hand, trying to assure her that if she remains with him, she will survive. The woman looks around nervously, feeling growing anxiety because of her own state. She looks at his face, hoping that he can really help. Do-young leads her through the room, trying to calm her down despite her fear. A woman is impatiently monitoring his actions, realizing that her life depends on him. She asks him how he is going to save her, what he will do. Do-young replies that he has a plan, but he must act quickly so as not to let her die. The hero, standing in a dark place, expresses anxiety, pointing to his hopeless situation. He is surrounded by a mysterious, obscure light. He decides that he became useless. In his voice is felt disappointed, he feels helpless. He notices a figure that begins to approach him. The mysterious feeling covers him. He sees strange signs around. He is trying to realize something, but fear covers his mind. Something strange and incomprehensible begins to happen in his body. Fear is increasing, and he realizes that something terrible is happening. The character suffers from the state in which he was unable to change the situation. He decides to try something else, trying to get out. His efforts seem to be useless, but he still continues to fight. Suddenly he is covered by a new fear when he understands that the circumstances are changing. Does his new test await, or is it just the fear that captures him? He is trapped again, not knowing how to act. The character begins to move again, but the feeling of hopelessness does not leave. As a result, he finds a way to break free, but the consequences are still ahead. He gets stuck, realizing that all his efforts are useless. The character expresses his disappointment, but he continues to fight. All his efforts led to new consequences, and he begins to doubt. He sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but what is behind him? Do-young is in an empty room. His gaze is full of determination. He is ready to encounter any difficulties that he will have in this world, complete secrets and tests. His thoughts are lost when he sees a strange sign cut right in the air. This makes it clear that his journey will not be easy, and that everything he encounters is not by chance. He takes a step forward, looking around the space, feeling something invisible pulls him further. His strength begins to grow, despite all uncertainty. A strange amulet appears in his hands. His eyes are filled with anxiety. This amulet is the key to his fate, but he does not understand what kind of power he controls him. Do-young decides to act. He carefully looks around to understand what is hiding in this strange world. He knows that there are many enemies ahead, but he is ready to fight. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears. Its silhouette is barely visible in the twilight. Do-young froze, trying to see who it was, but the figure disappears as quickly as it appeared. He feels that he has to meet this creature. His determination is growing. He understands that each meeting in this world has a huge meaning. Suddenly, the portal opens in front of him, into which he must enter to continue his journey. Determination appears in his eyes. He understands that this is a chance to change his fate. Do-young steps into the portal, feeling his body is filled with energy, which begins to heal his wounds. He realizes that this is not an ordinary test, but something more. Once in the new world, he looks around and notices how everything around changes. The landscape is becoming more gloomy and dangerous, and his intuition tells him that he will have a lot of struggle. He notices the silhouette that approaches him. This is another character who seems to know that Do-young will have a test. "Are you ready?" asks a new character whose gaze is full of secrets. Do-young feels that this is a question not about the readiness for the battle, but about the readiness for the changes in his life. He answers confidently, despite his anxiety. "I am ready." This moment has become a turning point, and he understands that his decision will determine the whole way. The character begins to tell him about the essence of this world, where everything can change at one moment. Do-young listens carefully, realizing that he has to go through a lot to reveal all the secrets. He feels in himself a force that he had not previously realized. This knowledge gives him confidence, but with him comes the realization that now he is responsible for his actions. Strange signs begin to spin in the air, which begin to activate as soon as Do-young takes the first step into the new world. He feels how his forces begin to synchronize with the energy of the environment, which allows him to use magic and weapons more efficiently. His gaze becomes decisive. He understands that now not only his own fate at the stake, but also the fate of the whole world. At this moment, he realizes that this world was created not only for the struggle, but also in order for him to become what he was always, namely for those who are able to cope with this test. Do-young takes a decisive step forward, ready to meet everything that awaits him in this unknown world. His determination and strength have now become his main weapon. Kim Do-kun, lying on the table, tells the girl that she should carefully listen to him. He claims that she will die a natural death if she does not change anything in her life. The girl, slightly stunned, continues to listen to him, but does not understand what exactly he is talking about. He continues to claim that she will live until he died her death. She asks a question, not understanding how to live so that not to die. Do-kun calmly explains that she will live for so long until the moment comes when she is not destined to die. Kim Do-kun looks at her, as if confirming his words. He assures that he can make her life safe, promising to support her as long as possible. The girl in bewilderment continues to look at him. She cannot understand how all this is possible, and her face expresses complete bewilderment. Do-kun says that she should stay with him because he needs her ability. He adds that she is very useful to him. She asks the question of what exactly she should do to be useful. Do-kun replies that her ability to bear fruit is what he needs. The girl begins to suspect that her ability is important to him, but she does not quite understand why. She continues to look at him with concern. He replies that she is useful because her abilities are important to him. He mentions that it all depends on whether she can continue to bear fruit. She, of course, does not understand why this is needed, but he explains what will wait for her to do it for him. Dokkan continues to reason, saying that if she does not bear fruit anymore, then for him this will mean the end. He seemed to be ready to lose interest in her. The girl begins to worry, asking what will happen to her if she cannot continue to fulfill this function. He replies that her utility will disappear. He again emphasizes that her life depends on her ability to bear fruit. Without this, she loses its meaning for him. The girl thinks that if she cannot bear fruit, she will not be needed. This fills her with excitement, but she hopes for a further explanation. She asks an important question about whether he will continue to protect her, despite all the changes. She clearly wants to understand what her role is for him in the future. Kim Do-kun, smiling slightly, replies that her life is not only her ability. He claims that she has other qualities that are important to him. He continues and says that the fact that to bear fruit is not its only purpose. She is surprised that he sees in her more than just a means for his goal. The girl looks at him with some bewilderment. She does not understand what he means, and decides that the conversation needs to be continued. Dokkan, thinking about time, begins to mention that they do not have much time. He is clearly concerned about the run. He decides to stop the conversation and offers first to eat, and then discuss all the details in order to relax and do everything in order. The dock stands against the backdrop of a bright sky. In his hands he holds some object, carefully considering it. It can be seen that he is concentrated, thinking about something important. He extends his hand and holds a sheet of paper in it, clearly reading something, feeling his gaze fixed on this document. He stops and looks into the distance. His expression is tense. He clearly expects something. Another person appears to the right of the dock in a strict suit who seems to plan something. He looks a little ominous. His eyes are hidden behind glasses. The same person is in the frame. He is now closer and, apparently, is preparing to say something important. Dox draws attention to his actions. The character in the suit silently watches the Dox. His facial expression remains calm, as if he was plotting something. The Dox are still standing, but now his gaze is alert. He feels some threat and thinks about the situation. The same person in a suit continues to look at him, at the same time as if hiding something. The Dox notices a strange movement in the air when his gaze goes up, and there is a feeling that something is wrong. At this moment, the Dox notices a sharp movement behind his back, and he instinctively reacts to this, preparing for a possible danger. He begins to turn his head, trying to understand what is happening. His body is tense. The next second, something flies past his head, and the Dox backs sharply, feeling danger. He continues to move, turning around. His body is already in motion, trying to get away from the threat. The flying threat disappears in the distance, and the Dox, accelerating the step, hurries somewhere. He flies past the Dox, and at that time the girl in the background notices that the Dox dropped her hat. The girl comes up and points to the hat that lies on the ground. Anxiety is heard in her voice. The Dox returns, seeing her worried face, and tries to hide his nervousness, again focusing on the situation. He continues to move, his steps are accelerating, and he quickly leaves the room. At this time, his steps become more decisive. He clearly realizes that he needs to be careful. Having run around the territory, the Dox stops on an empty square, looking around. His gaze slides through the surrounding space. Lee Sukun is standing on the street, talking with a friend who seems to be worried about something. He asks, "Hey, is Sukun, what happened?" Sukun looks at his friend in bewilderment, surprise in his gaze. He replies, "Friend?" Sukun's friend continues, but his thoughts are expressed by the words, "Exactly. This is not his friend, because he does not look like a person from his environment." Sukun again asks the question, "What have you seen?" His face clearly expresses concern. Sukun is standing clamped between the grate and his thoughts. His lips say, "Pa." He continues to look through the grate, then focuses his gaze on something. His face expresses confusion. The camera adjusts, showing a friend who now goes outside with a bag in his hands. Sukun clarifies, "Parkour." Sukun's gaze is transferred to a package. He is clearly shocked by what is happening. Sukun's friend apologizes. "Sorry, I was scared, so I did not notice." He continues the explanation. The question arises in Sukun, and he asks in bewilderment, "Can't it be that this is connected with our house?" Sukun's friend shows a package while saying, "This is for you, Kim Do-young." Sukun holds a package. His face expresses a slight surprise. He begins to think, looking at the bag, "When you did not even mention anything about it." The package opens, and Sukun looks in surprise at the fact that inside, clarifying, "What is it?" Sukun and his friend continue the conversation. He noticed someone nearby and asks a little alarmed, "Hey, Sukin." A friend standing in sportswear replies, explaining, "About this loser." Sukin asks a question, trying to recall the details. "Yes, what happened to him that day?" The camera focuses on a friend of Sukin who, thinking, recalls, "He disappeared somewhere, leaving his fate to the will, with a fatal binding to his enemy." Then a dark shot appears and a friend of Do-young thinks, "I think he sent this parcel." Concluding the conversation, a friend says, "I'm right, yes? He still came to you." In the first image, a lottery card with a bright pattern is visible. It lies on the table. A woman holding a lottery ticket smiles. A bright shine comes from her eyes, and she thinks that this is her chance. She turns to a man with a question, looking at the ticket. "Oh, this is a lottery ticket." The man standing next to her asks, "Are you all right?" A woman with anxiety on her face replies, "Why do you look like that?" A man is trying to understand if there is someone more unhappy than them. He asks the question, "Is there anyone more unhappy than I am here?" She answers, raising her hand, "Perhaps this is just my fate." The man looks at her perplexedly and asks, "Then why do you continue to buy them?" A woman with a smile replies, "I have been buying lottery tickets every week for 10 years now. I have never won more than 5,001. She joyfully raises her hand and says, "But today perhaps luck on my side." She again makes a gesture of victory, and her hand is raised with a ticket, her mood clearly improved. In response to her joy, a man watches her and asks a question with a smile. "Are you sure?" A woman and a man laugh together, relying on luck. The woman says cheerfully, "Let's go right now." Lottery ticket in hands. The man asks the question, "Do you remember that you have recently won the event and received a ticket to the airport, right?" They both smile and the woman continues, "Do you remember how I won the ticket?" The woman thinks to herself, looking at the ticket, "It is interesting. If it is 5th place, then there will be 50,000 won." The woman is surprised to express her opinion, thinking aloud. The man turning around expresses an easy discontent. "I am a little enviable." The woman laughs and jokes, "Are you sure? I can become lucky, and if so, this can cause disagreements between us." A man with a smile suggests, "Hey, if you win, we must share the winnings." The woman looks surprised but interested. A woman with a smile replies, The man asks with a serious expression on his face, "Do you want to exchange at least one of these lottery tickets? What have you just bought with mine?" The woman in confusion replies, "What? Why?" The man, not paying attention to her doubt, continues, "You can just take 50,001 that I give you and buy more tickets, right?" A woman, still not quite understanding, holds her ticket and replies, "No, I want to buy your luck for 50,001. A man with a smile, seeing her reaction, continues to joke, "What do you mean?" The woman looks at him with a slight embarrassment. It seems you like to take risks, aren't you?" The man, smiling, replies, "You know, I'm lucky." A woman with a smile, teasing him a little, replies, "Are you serious?" A lottery ticket appears in the hands of a man, and he jokes, "This is a contract for the exchange of your good luck for mine." The woman is surprised, but does not lose patience. The woman, shaking her head, says, "Are you joking?" The man, continuing the joke, clarifies, "You did not think that luck could be exchanged." A woman with a smile replies, "Okay, you're right. Let's try." In the evening, they together go to the store and say, "Is it just amazing? Where can I exchange the money?" The woman impatiently adds, "I do not know, I have never done it, so I'm not sure." The woman notices someone at the table, and her expression becomes more serious, as if something was happening. She continues her conversation with a man. "This is probably a piece of pie, right?" The man mysteriously replies, "Good luck." A woman, frowning slightly, asks, "Have you ever heard of a demon that steals good luck?" A man with a smile shows a lottery ticket and says, "I am the same demon." His facial expression easily indicates his confidence in his abilities. The woman in shock asks, "What is this nonsense? Are you joking?" A man with a smile replies, "Yes, you just gave me luck for 500 million won." A woman, clearly dumbfounded, does not believe and repeats, "You are joking, right?" The man, moving to the next part, adds, "Next time, do not conclude transactions with unfamiliar demons." A woman, still shocked, is trying to realize what is happening. She cannot understand what is happening. The man again shows her a lottery ticket and says, "Now it seems there will be no next time." He continues, "You are not lucky at all as much as you think." A woman and a man noticed a strange phenomenon when something dark and sinister appears before them. The dark silhouette demonstrates its terrible essence, leaving traces of fear in the eyes of others. A woman who has lost consciousness thinks about the consequences that expect them. This is the end. They will die a terrible death. A woman, having sensed pain sharply, raises her head. Wow. She begins to feel strange pain and says, "What happened?" A man looks at her with a confused expression on her face. The woman in a panic continues, "Why are you saying such strange things?" She departs, feeling how everything starts to deteriorate, and exclaims, "You are not joking, right?" The woman leaves the situation, disappointedly speaking. "Let it end quickly. I can't fight it." A man, angry, and says, "You play with other people's lives, do you understand?" A woman in a rage shouts in response, "You are a vile bastard." A man with a ruthless smile replies as if enjoying what is happening, "You can't even imagine how everything can end." A woman with a confused expression on her face turns to a man. "You're on. Let's just leave." The woman adds, She notices that the man does not look likely and asks, "What do you mean? Do you feel bad?" The man looks puzzled and explains, "Recently, I began to notice that you are not a person." A luminous image of a man with a terrible aura appears on the screen, confirming his words. "You are not a person." The woman grabbed the man by the hand, asking, "Let's leave, please." She trembles slightly but agrees. "Okay." A man with a slight smile on his face continues, "In that case, let's make a deal. I will buy more tickets and tickets." A woman with a displeased look interrupts him, saying, "You said that we must make a deal." The man, tearing the package, replies, "If you want me, you need to say what you want." A woman, still a little irritated, says, "Forget, let's leave here." A man, standing in her face, asks, "Miss Kim Do-young?" The woman in surprise asks, "Hey, how did you know the name of Do-young?" A man with a mysterious smile replies, "She was born on March 11th, in 1997, if my memory does not change me." The woman is clearly shocked by this knowledge. "Have you become her stalker?" The man grinks, clearly enjoying the situation. "Do you think that I am already quite creepy?" The woman is unhappy, but still continues the conversation. "Do you understand what you are doing?" A man with yellow eyes replies, "Do you really want your life to become so unbearable?" He looks at her again, clarifying her information. Kim Do-young, 27 years old. A man with a light smile and luminous eyes asks, "Do you really not know who I am?" A man standing on the balcony says, "You will continue to try to change the world and lead it into the right direction, but in the end, you will die alone." View of the city from the bridge showing the dark atmosphere, creating a feeling of impending tragedy. The woman scares and screams when she begins to realize the seriousness of his words. "Ugh!" The man continues to joke. "Stop joking like that." The woman continues to talk with the man, saying, "Ha, ha." The man, without stopping the conversation, remarks, "I can tell you bad things too." He continues with a smile and kisses it, as if emphasizing his power and confidence. A woman, irritated and with anxiety, says, "You seem to have luck." The man takes out the phone and checks something on the screen, ignoring her reaction. The woman looks at him and replies, "Now that you say this, let's somehow normal." A man with a smile continues, "I know you want to talk, but what do you offer me in return?" A woman, with an expression on her face which gives her confusion, replies, "You say that I can control my luck, but it is too difficult." The man holds out something to her, says, "In exchange, you will not show your success in front of us again." The woman, not believing in his words, looks at him. "Are you really insisting on this?" He answers, raising his head, "Even if you want to return your luck, it is already lost." The woman is nervous and screams in response, "What kind of nonsense is this?" A man with a light laugh remarks, "You behave as if everyone around knows how hard it is for you." The woman does not retreat and says to show her confidence, "Come on, where are we going?" The man again finds an end to a successful replica. "You said that no one would want to approach Do-young." The woman, turning around angrily, summarizes, "And she will be alone, really? Damn with this." A man and a woman walk along the sidewalk. She holds onto his hand. The woman confidently says, "While I'm here, this will not happen." They approach the stone sidewalk where their conversation begins. The man asks, "What is wrong?" pointing to tension. The woman answers, slightly worried, "I need to tell you something." The man asks with a serious look, "Do you have a coin?" The woman is obviously puzzled, says, "So Dan, give me a knife." The man holds the knife in his hands and looks decisively. He passes the knife, and the scene looks tense, as if it were a key scene. The woman carefully looks at the ticket and says, "Is this a lottery ticket?" She sees that it is written on the ticket, "This is a fake," that she is very disappointed. The man says quietly, looking at the ticket, "This is a fake." The woman looks at a ticket bewildered and painfully, realizing that all this is in vain. She begins to worry and asks with despair, "Why? The man standing nearby reassures her, "Do-young, you will be fine." The scene goes to the view of the city at night where a man sits, absorbed in his thought. The man with decisiveness says, "I will give you all his luck." A woman standing against the backdrop of a night city thinks, "Even after my life was destroyed by this demon?" The man answers with sadness, "This is not your fault." A woman in tears begs, "Please do not die, Doyoung." The man is experiencing the moment when it seems that he is losing consciousness. His face distorts the pain. A dark, ominous scene with the image of a demon, against which a voice is heard. In fact, he was expelled to refuse to kill people. A strong contrast with a bright background, where a demon stands with straightened hands. He continues, "But in fact, he was expelled to refuse to kill people." A man with a slight smile says, "Why? Does he not like to kill people?" He continues carefree, "What is the harm to give up?" A man looks at a woman and says with hostility, "Even if their lives are not worth anything?" The man continues. In his words, a mockery is clearly heard. "They mean nothing. Useless creatures die, losing their luck." He shrugs, continuing to express his opinion about humanity. A fire against a background in the form of a destroyed cafe, creating a tense atmosphere. A woman with a serious expression on her face looks to the side. Her gaze causes anxiety. The man standing nearby asks the question, "Why are you not dead yet?" It stands among a group of people who look worried. One of them seems to notice the strange. The man continues reasoning, smiling, and confirms, "Do not worry, I did not want to kill you." A woman, dumbfounded, remarks, "How can he be so confident in her actions?" A man finds himself in a tense situation where he doubts, asking the question, "Did I really want to die?" He stands among the dark shadows. His gaze is focused, and he thinks, "Fortunately, I was just a little shocked." The man continues with a light grin, saying, "I did not think that this was my intention." A figure appears that asks a sharp question. "Do you finally understand how terrible high-level demons are?" A woman who feels a threat is worried about her further actions. The man in response speaks with a light grin. "That's why you could steal these things from hell." The final scene, the dark figure from hell appears against the background, whose strength is noticeably threatened. A man holding some object says, "I am just a thief, so I have no special abilities, like Hyung." The man screams in pain, "Ah!" The scene shows a man suffering from pain. He thinks to himself that there will be a little time to heal the wound. The man standing nearby explains, "Take a wound and do not move for a while." A man with a smile says, "This is just one thing before you leave." The man passes something into the hands of the interlocutor, continuing to explain, "I want to study the memories of a person." Another character, looking at him, answers with curiosity, "Human memories? Why is this?" A man shows something in his hand. "I will do it without problems." The scene with men sitting at the table. One of them says, "What is it?" The man explains, "The use is very simple." Next, the image with the process of using the device is shown. The man, still with a smile, continues the conversation with a smile. "It is not so difficult." A man with slight embarrassment continues, "This is a little creepy. Is there another way?" He asks the question, "Do you have any accessories that only a person can use?" The man thinking replies, He switches again to continue the conversation. "This is what to do with it." The man demonstrates the subject as shown in the picture. He explains, "When you pierce the thread, apply a drop of blood to it, and then tie everything as shown." He continues, "And send it to a person to establish contact." In the last scene, an image of a device appears that connects a person to another world. A woman, holding a lottery ticket, opens it with tension. The man next to her, speaking with a slight interest. So, the moment when the ticket is reunited with its owner, the woman looks at the ticket alarmed. She clearly realizes something. A man in another scene begins to suffer from pain. His face distorts torment. He asks the question, "How can you still hold on, despite the fact that your luck was taken?" The man in response says, as if in thought, "Doyoung." The silhouette of a person in space looks unnatural, creating a feeling of strangeness of what is happening. The man in despair shouts, "Why don't you die?" A man, torn inside, wonders, "How is it possible?" He grips his hands tightly, being in thought. The woman begins to move. Her face is filled with determination. A man, turning to her, says, "Kim, where are you going?" He feels growing irritation, seeing that the situation is getting out of control. A man shows strength, straightening his wings, which symbolizes his readiness to act. The woman speaks with a note of anxiety. "Can you stop? You are not leaving." A woman with a thoughtful expression continues. A man turns to a woman with a serious tone. "Are you sure that this is all you want to do?" The man looks at her thoughtfully. His face expresses doubt. The man, smiling, says, "Of course you are always right, but it is much more complicated." The The man continues. That's why I told you to take a village bus. The man holds a lottery ticket, strongly squeezing him in his hands, with a tense expression on his face. The woman looks at him with an uncertain look while he is discussing the ticket. The man with a smile says, "Give me this for a second." He picks up a ticket in his hands, preparing to do something with him. The man, looking back at the ticket, expresses irritation. "This damn bastard!" He continues to curse, clearly irritated by the situation. The man looks at the ticket again, after which he makes a sound, showing his condition. The man looks disappointed, holding a lottery ticket in his hands. He stands with a friend nearby against the background of a sports ground. The woman looks at the man, holding something in her hands. Her face expresses concern. A man, in response, in her opinion, examines her, being confused. A man and a woman stand, looking at each other, with expressions on faces full of surprise. The man says, "How do you cope with this?" The woman, seeing a man, throws his eyes and says with irony, "Here, come here!" The woman continues in a conversation. Her emotions remain tense. "When you come next time on time, come on, faster." The man remains dissatisfied and irritated, continuing to discuss the topic without sharing her emotions. A man, in response to her words with a smile, says, "You are not so unsuccessful, because you have me as a friend." The woman begins to cough. Her face expresses confusion and anxiety. A man nearby as worriedly asks, "What is the matter with you? Are you all right?" The woman looks at him in surprise and slightly worried. "You look as if you feel bad." The man answers with some sarcastic smile. "You said that I had to give you time, right?" A man stands with a surprised expression on his face, considering something in his hands. He thinks, "So this is exactly what you lost?" He continues. "You could survive our contract if only she helped you with your luck." The woman standing nearby asks the question, "How could you not die if your luck was lost?" The man continues to speak, expressing anger. "Damn bastard." He still thinks, standing in the dark, with an expression of disappointment and anxiety. The man continues to think about the situation. His face expresses doubt. A man, looking strongly excited, exclaims, "How is this at all possible?" He sharply jumps up from the couch, noticing something strange. The woman standing nearby, with a slight surprise, asks, "What was it?" The man replies in bewilderment, "What was it? What did I just feel?" A man, standing on the street, argues out loud, "It seems that luck really has its own price." A woman, standing nearby, also reflects out loud, "Why does he behave like that?" The man continues to discuss, "Those smuggled goods are a huge price, do you understand?" The woman, carefully watching the situation, agrees. "Yes, I know these things were too expensive." A man who continues the conversation nods slightly. "Sukun, you said that he was seriously wounded, right?" He adds with an worried expression. "Yes, it seems that he was very wounded in the stomach." The woman, coming closer, asks, "Are you going to help him?" The man, trying to calm down, decides, "You need to finish this until his wound healed." A woman cannot believe when he begins to move. "Are you sure that this should be done?" A man with a smile replies, "Yes, come on. I will introduce you to a new friend." The woman looks puzzled. With a slight concern, he asks, "Where are we going?" The man, walking, replies, "This is not some other demon, right?" The man smiles and confirms, "Correctly." The next image appears a threatening dark figure with red eyes and weapons. A woman paying attention to the figure expresses the alarm. "Is there a demon?" The scene indoors where a man and a woman are discussing current events. On the street, a man and a girl go along the bridge, and the man continues the conversation. A woman, slightly worried, asks, "Hey!" The woman, with distrust, expresses her doubts. "I really do not want to meet this type." The man calmly replies, "We are here." The man continues, "We are here. This is a place." He explains, continuing the conversation. "The one with whom we meet is quite friendly." The woman in confusion asks, "How could you bring another person here?" A man with a serious expression on his face replies, "Before I forgive you." A scene appears with a dark chain of a surrounded figure. The woman carefully looks at what is happening. Her facial expression becomes tense. The man continues to speak, slightly nervous. "Are you seriously bringing another person here? Are you crazy?" The woman looks stunned at a man who remains adamant. The man, turning around, adds, "Do you know that there is already an order for you?" The woman, alarmed, continues, "What?" A man, standing doubtfully in his voice, says. The woman standing nearby looks worried and asks, "Where are we going?" The man continues the conversation with a slight irritation. "Probably he just makes fun of me and my friend." The woman looks alarmed when her gaze is aimed at a dark figure. A man, worried, declares, "It seems that we are observed from hell." A woman with irritation replies, "Please stop getting me." A man with a thoughtful expression on his face explains, "So, The demon that I saw was on the human territory? It should be ... A man adds with increased interest, "You have no idea how serious the situation is." The man continues, "You want to stay alive, so it's better to immediately remove him from here." The woman is puzzled and asks, "So do you want me to leave? Are you sure?" The man, placing his hands, says, "I know that this is contradictory, but you understand." A huge dark silhouette appears in the dark. The man, looking around, continues, "You see, I thought it was a normal order." The man continues, "Do you probably understand that I did not just do it?" A man, a slightly sad tone, asks, "You want to help me, right?" The woman looks at him with understanding. "What are you saying?" The man, smiling, explains, "I really hope for your help, because the old friendship costs a lot." The woman, still doubting, says, "What do you mean?" A man with a smile adds, "You understand? I cannot cope without you." The woman asks the question, "Why did you come here?" A man with a thoughtful expression on his face thinks, "There is a problem demon with unique abilities, because of which it is difficult to control." He continues, "But fortunately this guy received a serious injury." The woman looks at the man with concern. Her gaze is full of doubt. "You ask me to torture him? Why?" A man, standing nearby, answers with a serious expression on his face, "Do you want me not to do this?" The man, as always, answers a little mockingly, "But think, we must unite whether you want it or not." The man continues, "We must contact this demon, otherwise it will not work." The woman turns nervously. "What do you want to do at all?" The man strongly says, "You, go inside, I will explain." A dark, threatening figure appears against the background. Her eyes burn with bright red light. A man with irritation asks, "What is now with Su Yang?" The man says with tension, "You carry too many problems with you." A man with a smile continues, "I know you can control this, but you have to do everything right." A man continues to think out loud. "Do you understand that you carry too many demons with you?" A woman asks a question without understanding the situation. "What is it with this now?" The man answers sharply, "You haven't taken a shower?" A man with a dissatisfied expression asks the question, "Why are you so dirty?" The woman asks a question with a hint. "You will go and sing something, right?" The man stops for a moment and says, "I saw a baker along the way here." A woman with some concern asks the question, "Are you serious?" The man standing with her resolutely says, "Then let's go and see what is there." A woman with a dissatisfied expression on her face says, "This guy is a hindrance." She continues, "You need to kill him." The man standing nearby expresses consent. "That's right." The woman asks, standing next to him, "You ask me to torture him? Why?" A man with a smile on his face says, "Funny house." The man walks along the street and stops, watching the house. "It seems that he was with Hanicum." The man continues, "I thought he was doing this." The man expresses dissatisfaction. "I do not want to go to mass meetings." The woman asks, noticing his reaction, "Are you not going to follow us because you are afraid?" The man sighs and doubts. "I still do not know whether to take risks." He continues, an alarming look, "How did you even meet such a person?" The man, raising his head, notices something strange. "What kind of fruit is this?" The man stops and looks back at the woman. "Hey, you don't see?" A man with a serious expression on his face notes, "I see a fire." The man continues to move, noticing something important. "What was it?" The man, watching intensely, sees a strange phenomenon. "Some kind of garbage." The man says in surprise, "Mister?" A woman who notices something strange turns to a man. "What is this hell?" A man, not understanding what is happening, continues to follow the situation. Fruits containing human emotions. The man looks in surprise at the event that is happening in front of him. His eyes expand from surprise. "What is happening here?" A man with a serious expression on his face says, "This guy is a trouble." The woman continues, "We need to kill him." A man with a form of disappointment adds, "That guy apparently was lucky that he had gone somewhere." The man in the next frame tightly grabs someone by the neck, showing his discontent. The man explains, "Demon?" He continues, pointing to the photograph. "Yes, there was another person with this demon, but he died." A man absorbed in thought says. A man with light irritation adds, "Do you know who I am?" The woman continues with distrust, "You are not one of those who are on the list." The man answers with disgust, "It is difficult to explain." The man says, expressing dissatisfaction, "You must understand the importance of this no matter how difficult it is." A man, impatiently on his face, continues, "I will do everything to do it." The man continues, "Kim Do-young is also on the list?" The woman asks with a concerned expression, "What is the reason?" A man looks at the image of a person. "The real cause of his disease is because of her." A man draws a conclusion with a slight smile. So she seems to be really a person who has an incredible success. The man thinking says, this explains a lot. A man with a slight irritation says, tell me all the details about this person. The man expresses interest. I am interested in the incredible luck that he possesses. The man explains with a clear expression on his face. Because she may have even more success than that demon. A man with a thoughtful expression on his face says, not only luck, it can also be fear, empathy, pain. He continues, directing his gaze at the woman. Maybe Hannum was also attracted to her for similar reasons. The man thinks, looking at the illustration. I wonder if she has such a powerful power? A man with a dissatisfied expression adds, does any demon want to have such an ability? A man, looking at a woman with curiosity and asks the question, how did you recognize it? The man answers with confidence. Yes, I tried to get into her thoughts. He continues, with doubt in his voice. Have you ever tried to penetrate the thoughts of this man? A man answers with irritation. I do not think that this is a good idea to move on and ask Kim Doyeon. The man does not hold back irritation and begins to act decisively. Hey, do you not understand what you said? He goes to a woman, holding a weapon in his hands as a sign of threat. The man continues, speaking with confidence. What an absurd guy. The woman begins to laugh, which leads a man to be confused. A man, seriously referring to the situation, says, are you serious? A woman with a smile on her face laughs on. A man, clearly irritated, says, stop laughing. The woman continues, just shut. A man looks at a woman with fatigue. I tried to give you a chance because you still look young. The man approaches her with confidence, intending to give a final decision. The man is in full readiness, watching what is happening. The woman speaks with a sharp tone. You are not going to give up, right? A man with an expression of determination says, this is not just luck. He continues, maybe fear, empathy, pain. A man thinks about a woman. I wonder if she possesses incredible power. He remarks with surprise, will any demon want such power? The woman asks with surprise, how did you recognize it? The man answers with confidence, yes, I tried to get into her thoughts. The man continues, have you ever tried to do it? A woman with discontent replies, I think this will not bring anything good. The man answers doubtfully, I'm not sure that this is a good idea. Let's not. The man decisively begins to act. He continues, turning to the woman. What kind of strange garbage is this? A woman with an ironic smile replies, it should be something important. The man pauses, thinking, and continues. Kim Do-young, is this true? The woman answers calmly, pointing to the image. Yes, this is so. The man says, thinking, she really has incredible luck. The woman, continuing the conversation, adds, so she seems to be a very valuable ally. A man with a smile replies, you seem to be really interested in this. The woman continues, I wonder what kind of power she really has. The man continues his analysis. Whatever power it has, it will be decisive. The woman answers, trying to hide her anxiety. Yes, this is really important. A man with a dissatisfied expression on his face remarks, are you still alive? He continues. He claims to protect people. Another man continues. But what to do with this old and vicious ideological infection that spreads? The man seriously thinks, it really causes anxiety. The first man continues. It was for this reason that the order was issued. The man smiles with contempt. It cannot be. Other people in uniforms are with weapons, ready for action. One of them feels bad and says, I feel bad. A man, turning to others. Some people can be used to kill others. He continues. Do you understand how all this works? The man, paying attention to the details, replies, exactly, they are elite demons. Another man in response says, so, you want to destroy them, right? The man continues his conversation. What kind of mistake has happened? The man, assessing the situation, begins to act, preparing for the decisive step. He continues, I'm going to destroy this wretched name. A man with anger asks, how do you laugh? A man in response confidently confronts, how long have you been going to laugh? He continues, waving his hands. You are not going to withstand it. A man with rage strikes. His face and expression are changing rigidly. The final moment. A powerful blow filled with fury and destruction, with a destructive effect. In a bloody sunset, a man with a wound on his face, grinning, not showing fear. He holds back pain, not allowing himself to moan. His opponent, armed and decisive, stands on the contrary. But something is clearly wrong. The enemy continues to mock, but his face changes sharply. He restrains the fright, watching what is happening. A strange sensation fills the air, as if something more is happening here than just a battle. Speaking with restraint, the hero answers his opponent. I just wait for it to end." His words seem to be a harbinger of disaster. His calm violates only the whistling air. In response to his words, the enemy in horror asks, "What are you going to do?" But the answer does not come. Something is already happening, which makes him shudder. Return to the bloody reality. The sounds of the shot tear the silence, and the shooting character is surprised. Why did this not work? Explosion. The enemy stands still, experiencing a terrible surprise from what is happening. In response, short but frightening sounds of a shot, and the action begins. His attempt to find an answer to what is happening breaks. The weapon that appeared, as if the shell flying in his direction makes him overshadow fear. In a panic, he screams, "It was a mistake!" But late, the consequences are already coming. The silhouette of the second hero, dressed in dark clothes, leaves the fog. His face is filled with anger and determination. With a gesture, he launches magic, awakening the dark forces. His fingers clench into a fist, ready for a new attack. The enemy is trapped, not knowing how to cope with this terrible pressure. He resists, but the forces are clearly not equal. Meanwhile, the fire covers everything around. A flame flies into the enemy's face, and his reaction is instantly a cry of horror. His screams are drowned out by the sound of a struggle. He tries to break through the fire, but everything is in vain. He retreats, but for him this is not the end. Obviously, he is looking for something that can affect the outcome of the battle. At the moment when the fire disappears, his face is transformed. Fingers are compressed. Heavy breathing. Unknown power grows. The terrible consequences occur instantly. The enemy feels all the power of the attack on himself. Our hero appears on the battlefield again. His face expresses not only fatigue, but also determination. He thinks that the difference in age, level, and strength is not all. This guy is a real threat. We need to destroy it. The voice sounds filled with determination. Time for action came. The moment of disclosure of secrets is suitable. The hero's calm face, his calm eyes are not just courage. This is awareness. At the last moment, when meeting with someone again, the hero asks with interest, "Sunmin?" In the night lights of the city, the streets are empty, but the sounds of music from arcade machines fill the space. Strong light is reflected from glass windows, creating an atmosphere of stress. The young man standing in front of an arcade game moves to the beat of music. His steps are confident, but the feeling of a strange foreboding does not leave him. "People cannot defeat the demons," says his interlocutor. Confidence sounds in his voice. He clearly does not believe in the possibility of a person against the supernatural. Against the background of neon light, the second interlocutor replies, "There is a difference in physical strength, but..." His words break off, as if in search of other evidence. "In general, are there demons?" The question is asked. He clearly doubts that they are real. But the one who stands nearby immediately replies, "If they cannot be distinguishable from people, then they are the same as we are." Doubts go away. The enemy looks displeased at the interlocutor. "They exist like the one who saw them at least once. I'm sure of this," he says with perseverance. "The real game is just beginning, and work begins with this." He has no doubt that now any business is on the shoulder. Against this background, one of the heroes takes out the gun and directs it to an unknown goal, preparing to act without hesitation. The gun shoots, tearing the silence of the arcade hall. In response to actions, the sounds of bullets in the air add even more seize. But there is no time for thought. "We cannot afford to doubt and delay," the hero shouts. Determination is visible in the face. At this moment, another character takes a microphone, confirming actions. "This is our chance." He looks sure that they are close to the goal. One of the heroes asks with surprise, "And the agent Suni is also appointed to this team?" His words sound in disbelief that new information was opening. Another hero only nods in response, not being distracted from the screen, pointing to the cameras. "This is the same demon," he says, fixing the image. "I see him on the cell, an ordinary person who is not suspected. But everything changes when he passes in the frame. His behavior leaves no doubt. This is a person. A man." The words filled with a sense of anxiety sound. In the camera screen, his appearance suddenly changes. Due to dark glasses, something else is manifested, something that cannot be hidden. One of the heroes exclaims, "What is it?" He sees what he could not imagine before. The demon reveals its true form. "His name is Pood," one of the heroes briefly reports. He and his team now understand who deal with. He is a cunning demon who smugs prohibited things from hell to the human world in order to exchange them with other demons. Information about the present face of this creature is revealed. Over the past 2 years, I have been a partner of Pudom, says the main character, looking at the little toy of the demon in his hand. This is recognition in his fate and work. As the leader of the team said, it is difficult for people to defeat demons, he adds, expressing clear confidence in what was said. Everyone understands that they cannot cope without the power of demons. But this does not mean that it is impossible, the hero notes, touching the toy. His gaze is determined. He is ready to fight, despite the difficulty. One positive moment. Fewer demons remained in our world than once, he says, hoping for this chance that could change everything. Anxiety appears in his voice when he says, "But these creatures are hostile, especially to people. This is a warning that demons are not friendly." He continues, "He is now under my supervision. He has control, but he cannot predict what will happen next. We need to use them," he says with conviction. This decision will give them a chance to win, despite the risk. At this time, demons, whose silhouette pulsates with bright light rays, reflect chaos. The hero points to them. His face expresses determination. "The risk of a direct clash is too great for us," says one of the heroes, feeling the tension in the air. The main character, thinking for a moment, replies, "This is too risky for us." He understands that they are on the verge, and each action has consequences. The power of the demon breaks the space. The main character feels this stream of energy, feeling it suppresses it. At this moment, dark magic continues to break out of the demon, forcing everyone to look in horror in the room. It was too powerful to ignore. In response, the main character only smiles. "I am not so against it." His gaze is filled with confidence, despite all the risks. Against the background of an evening city, he calmly walks along the street, looking at the fog that appears in the air. His steps are confident, but internal stress does not disappear. Morning, and the hero continues his way, thinking about what to do next. He notices how birds soar in the sky, symbolizing the inevitability of changes. Birds take his thoughts in a new direction, a moment of freedom and reflection. He takes out a sandwich from his backpack, trying to relax. These are his rare moments of peace. Walking, he notices several people who seem to follow him. He does not turn around, remaining focused. Lee Suman, Secretary Huan Yonsei. He hears a voice pronouncing the name. This is not just an accidental mention, and this is not a random moment. Suddenly, he is surrounded by a group of people. They clearly know who he is and what he can. Kim Dokyoung there? The voice sounds with concern, and the look is directed at the building. The question is clearly important, and the expectation is growing. One of the heroes swallows. Tension is felt in the air. His reaction is unhurried, but inside he is full of determination. His eyes are full of determination. "I will not let you go so far." Words sound with a threat, clearly preparing for a collision. He again takes a step, preparing for action. Its determination is not weakened, and everything around is tense. The hero lies on his back. His hands are extended, and his legs are spread. It looks like a vacation, but fatigue is clearly hidden in the eyes. The girl standing nearby looks at him with fatigue. "It seems that you need to be with someone, so as not to be alone." Her words express a strange calm. "It was inevitable, one way or another," she says with a confident expression, realizing that all this was supposed to happen. At this moment, they notice how the old people clench their teeth, expressing their anger. These eyes are full of determination and alert. "It is better not to contact this demon," says another hero, watching the situation. His words are full of doubt and caution. Against the background of a tense atmosphere, the girl calmly says, "If not for that, you would have killed me for a long time." This is her view of relationships and danger. In response, the protagonist asks with interest, "What kind of view is this?" He notices her gestures that hide much more than it seems. He continues in irritation, "Are you generally normal?" His irritation is obvious. He does not like the behavior of the interlocutor. She looks at him with a slight irritation. "You overestimate your existence." Her words sound as if she was considering every movement. "Do you think you are so cool?" Her gaze is full of mockery. The question is open, but the answer will be how they decide to act. At this moment, the hero reacts sharply, grabbing the girl's hand. His actions are cut and strong, but his eyes are full of discontent. "What the hell?" the girl screams, wondering from what is happening. She clearly did not expect such a reaction. "And if Sunian reveals our location in exchange for something?" The girl, nervous, reflects on the possible consequences. The riddle is becoming more and more complicated. She continues, "For the salvation of his life?" The question remains open, but anxiety is heard in it. What if everything is not the way they suggest? He will probably not do this. The girl is doubtful in her voice to judge what will happen next. Her intuition suggests that you should not risk. On the other hand, she pauses and says, "He simply cannot afford it." Her face is completely determined. "Are you kidding me? If you do not act normally, I have life at stake." An urgent alarm is heard in the hero's voice. His fate and fate of everyone else are in danger. In response, the girl shouts, "You will not be able to cope with this if you do not act normally." Her words are full of tension. She clearly does not believe in his success. Pause. The hero is silent. His gaze is blurred, as if he was thinking about possible consequences. The night city is lit by the moon, and a mysterious shadow appears in the sky. This clearly signals the upcoming event that cannot be missed. This is a secret related to Kwanon's. Her words are full of anxiety. She understands that everything that happens is part of a broader game. "My goal is to drive the demons from this earth," says the hero. His eyes are determined. He knows that this is his duty, and he is ready to go to the end. At that moment, someone says, "He said that he must protect the praise in me." Sounds as a confirmation of its determination, despite all the dangers. What? The hero reacts in amazement, realizing that his actions may not have the same effect as he expected. He cannot believe his ears. He needs to understand the situation and act decisively. "Shh," the hero answers silently, calling for silence. He understands that a decisive moment comes, and you need to be careful. At this moment, strange figures in dark silhouettes appear in front of them. One of them comes forward. A light grin plays on the face. He discards the hood, revealing his real features. The demon. His eyes shine with scarlet light, and his shape is difficult to make out. He watches with a smile what is happening, clearly pleased with the result. "Are you all here?" His words are filled with sarcasm. "You did it easier for me, right?" His voice sounds cunningly, and he looks confident. This is not the one who will easily win. The demon begins to transform. His body is surrounded by dark energy, wings straighten. He is ready for battle. "Are you kidding me?" The question sounds again, full of surprise and anger. This is on the verge of turning the course of events. At this moment, the hero answers sharply, "I will make you live in suffering forever." His words are filled with determination and rage. The demon forces intensify, and he begins to attack. He flies to the hero, striking with incredible power. The demon attacks, and his magic destroys everything around, leaving traces of destruction and dark forces. The hero, in a panic, realizes, "Wait, Sunyan is still outside." His voice is filled with anxiety. Awareness comes too late. The main character feels how he was overcome. He can hardly hold on his feet. Blood drips from his body, leaving traces on the ground. The second side finds the time to make fun. They didn't see each other for a long time. An old friend. His opponent's mocking voice sounds. His words are full of irony. He does not stop there and is ready to continue to fight. The hero reacts with difficulty. "Ah, you annoy me." His face expresses fatigue and anger. "You have 10 seconds to play with me," the enemy says. A mockery is read on his face. In an empty street, the sounds of dripping blood are heard, in which the threat is hidden. Everything around is filled with tension. Drops of blood slowly flow to the ground, the harbinger of further tests. The hero, struggling with pain, tries to get up, but his condition worsens. His words are barely audible. Soon, supported by his ally, he is ready to continue the struggle. He takes out weapons to defend. "You are quite strong for a person, but will you have enough this?" one of the rivals asks. His voice is filled with contempt. The tension is growing. The enemy's allies come closer, preparing for the attack, as if nothing can stop them. One of them, with a grin on the face, declares, "You cannot kill us." He is confident in his victory. "So where is your confidence?" the second asks with a mockery, watching how the enemy loses his strength. "I liked it, you know," says the main character with light sarcasm. He looks confident, despite the outcome. "What a temporary nonsense," his opponent echoes him, dissatisfied with what is happening. The hero notices weaknesses in the enemy. "Still, your miserable look is not so bad." This statement makes the enemy think. "I will kill you first." His words sound decisively, with the intention of putting an end to the struggle. The tension is growing. The readiness for the final blow is obvious. Time has come. Epic moment. Two heroes break in a fight, fighting to the last. The sounds of the battle fill the space. Suddenly another enemy appears. This person, armed and prepared, appears on the stage, ready to intervene in the struggle. The main character coughs, his body is covered by pain, and he barely holds on his feet. The sounds of the battle fly in his face. The situation is getting worse, and one of the allies coming up asks, "Are you okay?" His concern is obvious, but the alarm remains. How is the situation with techies? The question sounds that only adds tension to the atmosphere. The hero looks away. His thoughts are busy with something else, but he manages to answer. "What?" His words sound with concern. At this moment, the battle resumes. Against the backdrop of a burning city, the hero continues to resist, despite pain and fatigue. Ah! His scream fills the air when he attacks again, not giving way to a step. One of the enemies responds to his call, throwing a new enemy into the air with incredible force. "How many minions did you bring with you, an ally?" asks the demon, evaluating the strength of the hero. His voice is full of mockery. The hero confronts despite exhaustion and declares, "I will make you pay for it." His determination is growing. The atmosphere becomes even more stressful when the sounds of attacks intensify and magic flare up around. Against the background of destruction, birds appear in the sky. Their flight resembles a free fall. This is the moment that is remembered for a long time. One of the heroes, assessing the situation, calmly says, "It seems that we need to retreat." The decision is made quickly. The enemy with a smile looks at what is happening. "Oh, so you are all here?" His words are full of self-confidence and threats. At this time, the demon activates its strength, filling the space with fire and fog. He is ready for the final solution. Around the hero, dark fire swirls in the air. It is surrounded by destructive magic. The battle moves at a decisive moment. In response to this, the hero declares, "Yes, the leader of the team." His voice sounds firmly, despite everything that happens. "The situation is worsening," says one of the heroes, realizing that it is necessary to act decisively. "It's better to return until it got worse," the instruction sounds. Through binoculars, it is clear how the situation becomes critical, but the commander remains calm. He is looking for a way out of the situation. "Do not worry about this front," he replies, confidently speaking that the decision has been made. "I think I should look for Miss Kim Dokyeon." The question sounds full of anxiety, as if the whole situation is on the verge. Many dark figures appear in the sky. Their silhouettes are clearly visible against the background of flame. The scene is filled with threat and tension. A young woman stands, watching what is happening. Her gaze is full of determination. She realizes that this is not a simple collision. Following this, she feels something approaching. The mysterious creature breaks to freedom, and it is preparing for the battle. The hero, obsessed with rage, screams as if meeting his fate. His face distorts aggression and despair. One of the enemies with a smile declares, "They really get deservedly." His voice is filled with contempt and complacency. A young girl feeling danger is trying to stay calmly. "Wouldn't it be better if I'm just going?" Her thoughts are running. Following her, steps are heard, and the sounds are accelerated. Time is running out, and she understands that the actions should be determined. The woman, noticing something important, thinks, "It all started again." This phrase sounds like a harbinger of inevitable. Dark silhouettes appear in the distance. It seems that they are not going to retreat, and the struggle will continue. The woman, standing on the stairs, decides that she needs to get out of this hell, but her path is blocked. Trying to find a way out, she boldly walks forward, despite everything that is happening around. Having achieved the goal, she sees the situation. What does it all mean? Her eyes are full of questions. A strange object appears in her hands like a reminder of what needs to be done. Anxiety increases. Her hand slides over the surface, and the sensations cover it. Everything again seems not the same as before. Internal experiences lead to new determination. The woman is ready for the next step to reveal the secret. The question sounds anxious. What does this all mean? She is already beginning to realize that this is not just an accident. A man with rage in his eyes shouts, "Damn it!" His words are full of pain and anger. In response to this, the enemy says, "Free your strength." He knows that this is a decisive word in their battle. He continues, "You use this technique, the one that can affect the most powerful opponents." At the time of tension, the main character, gritting my teeth, declares, "I cannot afford to lose." The dark silhouette of the enemy appears in the distance. The threat becomes obvious. Magic filling the space begins to feel in the air. One of the heroes, with despair in his eyes, examines, not understanding where his opponent was. Time is running out, and the situation is becoming more and more tense. The hero, weakened and tired, is preparing for an attack. His movements are slow, but the look is full of determination. "I will kill everyone who dares to look at me," the threat sounds. His words are filled with confidence, but despair sounds in this. At the time of the attack, the hero decides to act, but his opponent suddenly moves to the side. He seems to be ready to complete the battle. "What?" one of the heroes asks in amazement, not understanding how the situation has changed. At this moment, the enemy attacks. Lightning reaction, and there comes the moment when the forces collide. The hero continues to attack until he notices strange shadows. This is not just the forces of opponents, but something more dangerous. In moments of struggle, the hero realizes that he has to fight his own despair. He is ready to go to the end. "Listen, can you hear me at all?" the woman asks, paying attention to his condition. She sees that he is absorbed in something more than the battle. She again tries to attract his attention. "Do you hear me?" Her words are full of anxiety. She cannot hide her feelings. Disappointment seeps in her voice, and her gaze expresses pain and care. Again a meeting with danger. The hero looks at the woman, but his face is reflected by rage. His emotions are on the verge. He tells her with rage, "You chose me, so why not continue to fight?" His words are filled with anger and determination. The woman, not understanding what is happening, replies, "Will it end when I die?" Her words are full of hopelessness. "Why are you?" Her voice is full of pain and disappointment, and she does not understand what is happening. A woman, covered by anxiety, feels how the forces begin to leave her. Everything around seems irreversible. At the last moment, her hand touches the hero, and he feels her magical power. "This is something that can change everything. She absorbed my despair," the hero realizes, but this fact only enhances the struggle inside him. Seconds slow down, and the feelings of the heroes are intertwined. He feels how his power is leaving, but finds his strength for his last effort. "Why do you trust me again?" His face reflects doubt and pain. It seems that he cannot understand why everything is repeated. Rumors that the hero is again faced with problems fill the air. He does not know what to do, but rage in his eyes only becomes stronger. In response to criticism, he breaks down, shouting, "What are you going to do when it ends?" His words are filled with despair and anger. With his actions, he wants to demonstrate his determination, but his opponent's gaze remains calm, ready for the next step. "You didn't give up despite all this," he answers, surprised that the enemy is still ready to fight. "Every time I fought, the situation only worsened." His words are filled with pain, understanding that something more threatens him. The hero continues, "I live long enough to understand how it works." His face expresses an awareness of inevitability. "In the end, you will also find yourself the same because of me." His words concern even those who are next to him. "It seems that people began to worry about me." The hero notes that his life is becoming an object of attention. He is surprised to realize that his attitude towards people has changed. Life is so cold. In response to his words, the girl reaches out, and the hero, feeling her support, accepts her gesture. He feels how power passes through his body, but their path is only beginning. "Run!" Despair sounds in her voice. She understands that they need to leave as quickly as possible. The hero, not knowing where to run, replies, "Where can we run?" His eyes are full of questions, but he is ready to follow her instructions. "Let me go, Kim Do-kyung." His words are full of pain. He does not understand what to do, but knows that he must move on. She again takes his hand, and at that moment their connection becomes inextricable. She is ready to fight with him. Does it really look like an escape? Her question sounds with obvious doubt. She does not believe that it is all simple. Another figure appears in the dark. She is ready to intervene, but everything seems complex and uncertain. The hero sees how someone pursues him, and the tension is growing. Lee Suni, he pronounces the name, realizing that the situation becomes critical. "Your friend," another character replies, and his eyes are determined. "It seems that we are safe. But if we die again, everything will be in vain." The hero's words are full of anxiety and understanding of danger. A woman next to him, holding back emotions, replies, "It seems that you can all die at any time." Her gaze is full of anxiety. The next second, the hero rises, preparing for action. He stops her with the words, "You..." "What?" His gaze is full of doubt. He tries to understand what is happening, but the internal conflict only enhances the tension. The question that he asks is tormenting him. "Where have you been all this time?" He experiences inner pain from their separation. She is silent, not knowing how to answer. The pause in the air creates the feeling that something should change, but the ambiguity remains. He continues, "You cannot just stay away. I need to know that you are still nearby." The words sound like a request and a requirement at the same time. "You survived it before, isn't it?" He asks a question that reminds him that they both have encountered this so far. At this moment, the heroes look at the situation. Everything around is destroyed, but they decide to continue. "Look carefully," he says, pointing to strange events around, which once again violate their peace. A strange mark appears on his body, and he understands that this is not just an accident. This is something more. The enemy, with a predatory smile in his voice, declares, "Look how you lose your luck." His words sound like a harbinger of trouble. At this moment, the heroes find themselves in the center of the vortex. Forces that they could not understand surround them. He again says, "Take all the weapons and hold your hands where you do not see them." In his voice, tension is heard, preparation for the inevitable battle. The collision intensifies. Heroes feel how their forces begin to disappear, and this becomes their last test. The thunderstorm of magic is growing. They begin to feel the consequences of their actions. Destruction covers them, and every moment becomes decisive. The swords of opponents are found with their forces. Heroes see how their future disappears in the blink of an eye. The enemy mocks, "You should have used your strength." His words are full of neglect, but also cunning. The hero realizes that everything that happened was only part of the plan. He cannot predict what will happen next. Suddenly, a new enemy appears. He strikes, and the hero understands that his forces will not be able to protect him. "I do all this with disgust, but," says one of the heroes, realizing that the situation is becoming more catastrophic. His words are filled with disappointment. The forces of magic break off. The hero, in an attempt to avoid a blow, meets a magic attack, destroying everything around. The woman, noticing magical power, exclaims, "What are you doing at all?" Her words express fear. She understands that the consequences will be unpredictable. "If I do this, other demons will also be freed," the hero says, realizing that his every action will entail a chain of events. A woman, in a panic, tries to stop what is happening, but the power of magic continues to destroy the world around him. It gets out of control. The girl, in desperation, tries to find a way out, but the forces of darkness begin to grow, absorbing everything around. The situation worsens, and she asks the question, "How could you create it without a plan?" Her gaze is full of anxiety and discontent. The man with determination says, "There is no time for doubt. You need to stop him right now." He is ready for action, understanding all the seriousness of the situation. Attention is switched to others, and everyone notices that other people are also in danger. The hero realizes that his actions will affect not only him, but also others. He is trying to find a solution. The woman strongly says, "You cannot create such problems without a plan." Her voice is full of anxiety, but also determination. At this moment, the enemy continues to increase strength, and the heroes are forced to act quickly so as not to lose control. Against the backdrop of destruction, one of the figures extends his hand, trying to hold everything that remains. In the next instant, the dark forces begin to flare up again, and the situation becomes even more hopeless. The woman, realizing everything that happens, asks, "Are you serious?" Her words are full of despair and anxiety. Another hero with a smile says, "Hey, what are you doing?" His words cannot hide the tension that hangs in the air. "Kim Dokyoung, what are you doing here?" the man asks the hero in bewilderment, not understanding what was happening. The hero, remaining calm, replies, "This is not what you think." He knows that the situation is much more complicated. At this moment, a new attack takes place, and the hero feels how the forces begin to threaten his life. The hero feels the pain with tension. You become stronger. He understands that his actions lead to catastrophic consequences. The hero looks at the distance with an expression of surprise on his face. His eyes, full of tension, cannot hide what is happening around. He realizes that the situation is becoming more and more threatening. The woman standing nearby notices his gaze and as anxiously asks, "What?" Her words are full of anxiety, because everything around has become dangerous. At this moment, the hero and the woman are together, and the magic, escaping from his body, begins to move in their direction. They are surrounded by a strange energy aura. Suddenly, a change occurs. The silhouette of another hero appears in the shade. It seems to come out of the dark space. His eyes are full of determination, and the energy emanating from him scares and makes the rest of the heroes feel the threat.